Albatross, LUMI.
Warning. This podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned.
I think. Maybe. Could be. I'm giving it an extra second because we thought this was working last time too, but just in case, maybe. Almost. Holy shit, we are actually genuinely, legitimately live again. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live, unprecedented edition of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. See, I can do that live. Thank you again for tuning in. This week, as like most weeks, I have a couple of fellow MMA fans here with me to help break down some of the shenanigans and the tomfoolery that will take place over the course of this weekend. So before we get into anything too quickly around, first and foremost, the man, the myth, the legend, the ghost himself, Nick Devine. How the fuck are you doing, bro?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Glad to be back. Sorry I haven't been here, but I'm excited. I missed a lot of good fights too, man. A lot of good weeks. But I'm back now, and I can't wait to get started.
That's right. So, across the octagon, as it were, from Mr. Devine here, we have got the one and only, my brother from another mother, my Wednesday night compatriot. TJ, how the fuck are you, brother?
I'm excellent. I'm ready to do this. Gonna be good, as always.
Yes. Hell yes. So, this weekend we have the completely rearranged multiple times, stripped down, rebuilt, and now duct taped back together UFC Fight Night Greenville card. But before we get into that, we will do our normal intro segment here. We are going to go over some news and recent events, things that have taken place over the course of the last couple of days, last week since we did a show, some announcements I didn't get a chance to talk about last week that I want to mention real quick. So we will break it off right at the top here with big construction news. The UFC not only opened its UFC Performance Institute in Shanghai, China this week, which is absolutely huge, just ridiculously large fucking facility. They also opened their gigantic UFC Apex facility on the grounds in Las Vegas, connected to the UFC Performance Institute. That is, holy shit. UFC is putting big money where their mouth is. They've got production studios. They've got actual fight arenas so they can do full Tuesday Night Contenders. Well, excuse me, now it's the Contenders. They can do the Ultimate Fighter, everything in-house now. It's all going to be in one facility. They've got training facilities expanded beyond what the Performance Institute already had. UFC is literally putting in big building. So keep your eye out. I promise they are going to have crazy shit on that. I believe they just put out the full walkthrough video with Dana of the Apex. And I think Dana said that tomorrow he's going to do the same thing with the Shanghai Performance Institute video. So keep an eye out for those, because those both promise to be ridiculous as far as helping the UFC grow even bigger than they already fucking are. So moving on from there, as I did just mention, the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series has been rebranded now as the Dana White Contender Series, and it is officially back and in full swing and already disappointing fans. Not only is this series known for some legitimately good notes like bringing in Super Sadiq, Johnny Walker, some very legitimate up-and-coming prospects, it's also more importantly known for bringing in quite a few flubs, including the likes of a certain woman-beating D-bag whose name we're not even going to mention here, who keeps getting fucking chances for no fucking reason. So they are already off to a bad start because the very first inaugural, whatever the fuck it is, the first episode of the season of the Dana White Contender Series rebranding, the best fight of the fucking night, Dana literally passes on the guy who won because at the end of the fight, the guy was gassed. Literally, last 10 seconds of the fucking match, knew he didn't have the power to take his fucking opponent out, so he shoots a double leg and he takes the guy to the fucking ground and ends the match by taking the guy down. Dana says, because he went for a takedown at the end of the fight where he should have been pushing for a finish. Now he's not getting a UFC contract. Are you fucking serious, Dana? This is how you're going to start this shit? Like, Dana being Dana right away.
Another case of born retarded can't fix it.
Right? Like, and especially now with the Apex giving them the opportunity to produce this much more and this much of a bigger show for the Contender Series, for the Ultimate Fighter, for all the shit that they're planning. And then right out the gate, the first night that they put on the new show, they've got a great fucking fighter that's got a huge hype behind him. He's got his own following already, puts on a great performance, ends it in a smart way without trying to take damage, without putting himself in jeopardy, and Dana bitches about it and passes on the fucking kid. Here we go. So, from there, we move along, talk about a couple of things that have been announced here. The triple douchebag, Henry Conchudo, has officially posted pathetic selfies of himself, letting the world know that he is having an operation on his shoulder from a tear that he experienced during the Marlon fight and will now be out for at least the entire rest of 2019, if not the entire first quarter of 2020 due to rehabilitation. So all of his shit about wanting to be an active champion and not holding any division up like he hated other people doing, like he said, TJ was doing by trying to come down to 125. Now he is exactly doing himself. So here we go with another case of a big mouth turning into a fucking hypocrite right before our very eyes. Oy vey. So we'll let his fucking gold medal get pushed aside here. We will move on. The next thing I do want to talk about is an interesting fight matchup that was announced this week. I'm not sure how I really feel about it. I think my opinion about this fight will be determined closer to the fight when we get Dana's official voice on what this fight is actually going to mean to the division once it gets closer. And that is Diego the Nightmare Sanchez versus Michael Verbal Submission Chiesa. That is going to be something. It is going to be something for sure, but they're going to make it a headline on a fight night card is what they're projecting it as right now. So we will definitely have to see where they end up placing that fight card-wise, and then what the results of it mean will ultimately determine how I feel about it, I think. So moving along from there, speaking of bitches, DC has announced that unless something drastic changes between now and then, the rematch with Stipe will most likely be his final fight, win or lose. That due to nothing going the way that he originally planned it, now he's just not going to continue in the UFC. He wants to go down other avenues, aka he's running from John Jones. Whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it here. What is this? I don't know. There was a YouTube thing, but apparently it's not a thing anymore. I don't know. Moving along. The next thing I want to mention, something I'm actually very happy about. We've been waiting to hear about this, and they finally announced it. Matt Mitrione versus Karatanov 2. The rematch of the dick kick has officially been set. They are going to run it back. Mitrione is a man of his word. He held out. He did not take any other fights. He waited for Karatanov to be back. Oh, and I hope he's really back, because, man, getting your ball literally busted by a kick from Matt Mitrione does not sound like any kind of fun. So hopefully everything's good to go there, and we will get to see what should be an actual very interesting matchup between those two. And speaking of interesting matchups on the horizon, it was just announced day before yesterday that the one and only Fedor Emelianenko has signed a multi-fight deal for a retirement tour with Bellator. They did not disclose how many fights it is, but they did say it is more than one. So his tour, or retirement tour is what they're calling it. Fedor may actually be officially finally hanging it up. Now we just have to see who they're going to let him fight, or who he's going to be able to get to fight him before he goes out the door, because there are still a couple of interesting matchups that are prospectively out there. We'll see how those cards shake up, though. So quick little recap I would like to run down real fast here. Speaking of Bellator, last weekend's Bellator 222 card, which we did our other show for here, just a couple of results that I want to go over from that card real fast that bear mentioning. Surprise to no one, Robson Gracie by submission, round 1. Another Gracie in the MMA world is coming out fierce. Watch the fuck out. We kind of thought that was how it was going to go, but he definitely showed way more than I thought he was going to. Borik's knockout of Pico. Holy shit. That was unexpected, but wow. Aaron Pico needs to change camps immediately if he wants to continue in this sport. And, you know, the kid has got a lot of fucking potential, but it just seems like he does not have anybody steering him in the right direction right now. And I think that guy needs a new coach. He needs a new full camp. Get away from whatever the fuck you're doing right now. It is not working.
And stop going back to the well. That's his biggest problem. He keeps going back to the well. And everybody knows it. So he's easy to read.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. Is Borik saw what he was doing, got an easy read on, timed him out. Good night, Gracie.
It was not a surprising knockout at all, to be honest, as I watched that.
Yeah, as you watched that unfold, you kind of saw it definitely leaning that direction for sure. Another interesting one here that I do have to mention is I fully believe that Caldwell had every opportunity to win this fight, and you never leave it in the hands of the judges for a reason. And now, for the first time in history, Kyoji Horiguchi is the Ryzen bantamweight champion and the Bellator bantamweight champion simultaneously, with a new contract that allows him to defend the Bellator 135 belt at least once per year and retain it as a Ryzen fighter. This is officially cross-organization fighting. The door is open. You can't close that shit now. We have a champion from one organization who not only holds the belt for his organization, but he holds the belt for the same division in another organization where he took it directly from the champion. This is how it happens. This is how we get into organizational play. Now, hopefully it doesn't go the way of boxing where we get a bunch of bullshit going on, but this is at least the infancy stage of getting the UFC to legitimately open the doors to everybody else, because Bellator's in, Ryzen's in, clearly. One is in because they've made trades with UFC. So we've got most of the largest players in the market at the table. Dana, sit down, shut up, take the fucking money, let this happen. This is what the fans want.
That's If that story and the Fedor tour story mixed together, that would be cool. If his tour was different organizations,
let him go around. Yeah, let him bounce. Oh my God, there's so much fucking potential here. Oh, but aside from Horiguchi being the first dual organizational champion of a division, fucking that's a real champ status in my opinion. I don't give a fuck about going up 10 pounds or cutting less fucking water weight. Go to another organization and take their belt from their champion. That's real fucking champ status in my fucking eyes. Horiguchi is leading the fucking way right now. But aside from that, Juan Archuleta with a fucking power bomb. Holy shit, that man put a fucking KO out there. And then the surprise that was kind of a surprise, but not really, Dylan Dennis in a round 1 armbar submission. Did not catch the flying knee, though it looked like there was definitely potential because he shot right the fuck away. And then in my opinion, the biggest and most important moment of the night, regardless of anything else that happened last weekend, Chael Sonnen lost via flying knee from Lyoto Machida, and then laid his gloves down in the octagon and officially retired. That man set the example that people need to pay the fuck attention to. We say it more often than we should have to. I'm tired of seeing guys leave the fucking octagon crippled and punch drunk. Chael Sonnen is intelligent. He is still in great shape. He just knows that with what he's got going on, He's not going to make it back to the belt, so he's going to go about other avenues of his life, and he's not going to grind himself into fucking hamburger for a couple extra bucks on a chance at gold that he's not going to get. I appreciate that. I respect Chael Sonnen incredibly, even though he is kind of an asshole. Great fucking move to do it the way that he did, with the class that he did. And he's going to be involved because he's still working for Bellator. He's still commentating. So it's not like he's leaving the sport. He's just not going to get punched in the face anymore, as he said it. And you can't fucking be mad at that. You really can't. But after Chael retired, then we still had to go through the craziness of the actual fucking main event, which was Rory Red Queen McDonald versus Neiman Gracie. Now, I will say this. Rory very much surprised me with his submission defense, because Neiman repeatedly threw every fucking hold, grab, and grapple at him through that whole fucking fight. And there were several points where I and the commentators even were absolutely certain that he was going to sleep or was going to tap because his shit was getting bent or he had a fucking choke in, and he managed to pull himself out of every fucking one. And even though it went all the way to the end, we always say, can't leave it in the hands of the fucking judges. But hats off for that submission defense against the Gracie. I don't think, however, he's going to fare as well against Douglas Lima.
No, that fight definitely made. I like Rory McDonald a lot. He's one of my favorites, and that made me like him even more. Him getting out of them submissions was just, it just showed how good of a roundabout fighter he is. How all around he's got, he's just good. It's a shame. You see that he lost his killer instinct too. You do see it. You do see that. Yeah, but his technical game. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I enjoyed the hell out of that fight.
Yeah, it was very surprising. And like you said, his skills are still there, but you could absolutely see by watching him, that fucking killer instinct that he had, that hunger that he had is fucking gone. He's almost going through the motions at this point, but he's still technically good enough and he's still stylistically good enough to where he can do that and still be at a fairly high fucking level. I don't know if Lima's going to give him as much fucking slack as Neiman.
Nah, I can't see. Yeah, I can't see him beating Douglas Lima twice. And Douglas Lima just needed to be a little bit better, and now he's a little bit better, and he's probably going to lay a beating on him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm anticipating as well. I'm seeing I think Rory's going to come out and he's going to try and get after it because people are very publicly telling him, like, we can tell you're not that excited anymore. So I think he's going to try and come out a little bit more, but I think against Lima, it's just not going to be enough, man. That guy is a fucking world breaker right now. So, moving on from our quick Bellator recap, there are a couple little things that I want to mention real fast before we get into the meat and potatoes. Two more fights in particular that I want to talk about that have been announced. The first one I think is very interesting, but is definitely going to have some interesting repercussions in the division either way it plays out. And that is RDA versus Leon Edwards, July 20th. Now, Leon, for some fucking reason, is bumping his gums so much about everybody right now. And you would think for a guy who just caught a 3-piece in a soda like he fucking did, you would learn to keep that flap shut just a little more than you have been. But he's not. Oh, is he not? He is bumping his gums and already looking past RDA, which we all know is a very stupid and dangerous mistake to make, especially with the fucking tear that RDA has been on lately. So that one, I am very excited to see how that plays out. The other one, not so much excitement about. This is another one of those where I understand you have to make matchups in the division so that no one can say the division is being held up. But at the same time, this is both A, a little fucking quick, if I may say so, and B, a little undeserved, more so than the previous. And what I'm talking about is Valentina Shevchenko being put up against Liz Carmouche for the 125-pound women's belt August 25th. She just fucking fought. She just fought right before that. And now she's just going to fight again in a little more than a month from now, a month and a half from now. Like, I get that Valentina is active as shit, and she's by far the baddest woman in 125. But why the fuck are you going to have her actively defending the belt 3 times in a year against women who have not earned a shot at that title in any stretch of the imagination? Jessica I was not fucking ready for what Valentina brings. And that head kick clearly fucking showed it. Liz Carmouche, in my opinion, is still below where Jessica I stood prior to the Shevchenko fight. So I don't understand why they're going to cannon fodder her right in here when everyone knows how good Valentina is. We don't need a fucking demonstration. We are well the fuck aware of how dangerous the bullet is. Why would you meat grinder these girls up? The 125 division is not that big. Why are they rushing this fucking title around so much? Because none of the ladies who are at the top right now, let alone the ladies who have been given or are about to be given a shot, are doing the damn thing. Shevchenko is fucking dangerous. But Dana, Dana does what Dana wants to fucking do. So we're going to let Dana do what Dana's going to fucking do here. And we'll just have to watch the carnage play out on television and possibly see the first woman die in a cage. You never know. That's what Dana wants, I guess. If she dies, she dies.
I think part of that is Shevchenko said she's just going to stay in the division. She doesn't plan on going anywhere. So they're just going to feed her shit and feed her shit.
And I think that actually is a big part of it. I have a feeling that since she made that statement, this might kind of be Dana's way of just throwing her soup cans until she's willing to go back at fucking Amanda at 135 again. Because she's already said it's not out of the question for her. It's just not her focus right now.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. Yeah, go ahead.
I can't blame her for saying it's not her focus right now. She's got to run through the division. Once she runs through the division and she realizes there's nobody left that's worth her time, that's when I think she'll go back up. And right now, she hasn't run the gamut of everybody that's down at that weight class yet.
It's true.
I think she should run through the division and feed her what's his name? Cejudo.
If anybody would take that gold medal off his fucking neck, it would definitely be her.
One head kick at a time.
Damn right. In synchronicity. But the last little piece of news that I honestly really don't kind of want to mention it, but I have to because it turned from a bad joke into now what could potentially be a real thing. And it does need to be talked about, especially if it is going to happen. I definitely want to get ahead of this so that at least my opinion is out there early on. I think this is stupid as shit. I think this is opening a dangerous fucking door. But if you're going to do it, you might as well fucking do it with the brightest lights and the biggest fucking bang behind it that you can. And what I'm talking about is Justin Bieber coming out on Twitter and challenging Tom Cruise to a fucking MMA match. Initially, it was a bad joke, and the internet kind of reacted as such. And since then, it has been brought up to so many people, so many fucking times, including Biebs himself, who has said he's 100% fucking serious about this, and Dana White, who initially said no, to his credit. Dana White laughed and said no. And then when Dana White said no, Conor McGregor said, well, if Dana won't do it, McGregor Sports Entertainment will sanction and put on the fight, and Conor will even challenge Marky Mark on the same card. To which Dana almost immediately responded, well, if they're serious, no, we'll do it. Of course he fucking did. But now, as if this fucking story wasn't weird and fucking head-shaking enough, from the crowd, a new challenger has emerged. Because it has now been made very public knowledge that Tom Cruise is a 50-something-year-old man and Justin Bieber is a 20-something-year-old idiot, Steve-O, the one and only Steve-O himself, did his podcast with Dana White this past weekend and offered to step in and replace the geriatric Tom Cruise and take on the Biebs himself. As sad as I am that this fight is a possibility, that might save it for me a little bit.
Well, I did see that. I think the funniest thing with that whole fucking bit is it's because I can take a punch. That's why he offered himself up.
Yeah, because, well, and there's no denying that. Steve-O can take a motherfucking punch and handle it. Tom Cruise can do stunts for Mission Impossible movies, but that's not the same as a real punch. And Steve-O can take a real punch. that I think would make it a legitimately more interesting fight, because the Biebs is obviously in decent shape. He's rich as fuck. He's going to have a trainer. You know, he's going to be in good fit condition when he gets there. So anything he can throw, I think Steve-O could handle. But on the other side of that, do you really think that the Biebs is going to let some fucking no-name trainer dude really legitimately punch him in the fucking face to prepare for a fight? Because I don't.
No. How tall is Justin Bieber? Because Tom Cruise is like 5'5".
Biebs is short too. He's they were talking. I watched a breakdown video. As funny as that fucking statement is to say, of the potential matchup between Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise, and I think they said that Bieber is 5'2" and Cruise is 5'4". So Bieber is actually shorter than Cruise, I believe.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, neither one of them are big dudes, which is what makes that funny. Because then you turn around and Steve-O is like fucking 6'1". So
yeah.
But Steve-O is a skinnier dude too. So like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, this is a dangerous fucking door to open to begin with, because this is the same shit that Logan Paul tried to pull 6 months ago, and they wouldn't let it happen. And then he ended up getting it sanctioned to do pay-per-view on YouTube. So we know for a fact that at this point, if dumbass celebrities are determined that they're going to fucking fight, it's going to happen one way or another. Somebody's going to sanction it. Somebody's going to broadcast it. Like,
when there's money to be made, somebody's going to jump at it. It may not be the big fucking top dogs that are jumping at it, but somebody's going to make some money off of it.
yeah. And this is exactly another one of those that this will end up wherever it ends up being broadcast. It will also probably be some sort of a low-class pay-per-view like the fucking Logan Paul shit did. And there will still be money to be made off of this fucking celebrity shenanigans that are going to be fucking coming out of this. So,
to be honest, I say if they want to fight, let them fucking fight. But that's only if they're both willing to sign on the dotted line. Fucking let them do it. Just don't do it in a fucking professional setting. Go do it in an amateur setting, because neither one of you motherfuckers are professionals. We're
going to end up with something like the third singer in Backstreet Boys versus like an actor in Mission Impossible that isn't Tom Cruise.
Right.
What we're going to end up with is it's going to keep going that way, and it's going to be a stupid ass fucking fight.
I guess you could just label it as a celebrity deathmatch, the real version.
That would be awesome.
Well, and that's kind of my thing, is that like, if this is what they're going to do, if they're going to let these fucking celebrities actually go at it, make this its own separate promotion. Use the fucking UFC Apex for this, so that it's just the fucking celebrities and then a handful of fucking like lottery winning fucking first rowers and then their entourage and shit. There's no fucking 25,000 people that bought tickets for a legitimate UFC event and then have to watch the Biebs curl up and cry like a girl. Like, because as a fucking legitimate, pretty hardcore fucking MMA fan, if I bought a ticket to go see a UFC event and in the middle of the fucking UFC event, they bring out Tom Cruise and Justin Bieber, I want my fucking money back. That's not a fight that I'm going to fucking pay for.
That's like the shit you see at a halftime show of a fucking basketball game.
Exactly. Let that be its own fucking freak show.
It's a fucking ridiculousness.
You're right. But with that bullshit finally swept to the fucking side, that will bring us into the meat and potatoes of this evening's event. This is the UFC Fight Night Greenville card, Moicano versus the Korean Zombie, that we are going to be talking about here. Now, this poor fucking card, you cannot help but feel for, because this card originally was billed as a completely different thing. It has quite literally been picked clean, rebuilt, stripped down, and then duct taped back together as the thing that we're getting this weekend. There were some really, really interesting fights that were going to be on this card that have since been pulled, but there are still some very interesting fights on this card. The downside, however, is that there are a lot of filler fights on this card. A lot of filler fights on this card. I would call it the prelims, but in this situation, it's almost more appropriate to just call it the prelims, because it's, you know, it's not really anything big. It's a legitimate prelim. This isn't full filler, but this isn't a lot of fights that really matter. This is more of, I guess we could call it a prospect showcase, if you will. I think the most experienced fighter on the prelims has 11 pro fights. That being said, there's clearly not going to be a lot of those we're going to want to talk about. There's two in particular that I want to mention here on the prelims. One for irony's sake, one for legitimacy's sake. We'll go with the irony first here. Darren Mini DC win versus short notice replacement for Bruno Silva, Eric Spicely. Now, Darren Wynn is a bad joke. He is almost as bad as Justin Wills, who I hear either did or is about to potentially be cut either way. Motherfucker. But Darren Wynn is just as bad. Darren Wynn came from the Pony Boy promotion, Golden Pony, that's what it is, Golden Pony promotion from that horrible fucking Chuck versus Tito card. He was the one who put on a laughably pathetic fight against Filthy Tom Lawler. And just to spite Oscar De La Weirdo, Dana signed him. Now we have to fucking deal with him. And he's getting put on the fucking prelim cards. But the good thing about that is that the last minute replacement for Bruno Silva, who I also felt would have beaten the dog shit out of Derek Wynn, is Eric Spicely from Tough 23, who, again, didn't win, but was one of those that came out of that season showing great potential, great prospects. And I believe now, let me see, what is his record right meow? Where did I just lost it? There we go. 12-4. 12-4 is not a bad fucking record for a guy who came from losing or from not winning, rather, Ultimate Fighter. And the guy's got some talent versus Wynn, who is 5-0 against fucking soup cans. So, not that it's going to be a great fight per se, but I think in this situation, Eric Spicely is going to come out and show that he is an actual well-rounded fighter versus Darren Mini DC Wynn, who is going to run, bitch, and probably try an eye poke or two.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even want to talk about this. I'm over it already. This is some bullshit. This is an early prelim that should. Thank God it's on ESPN Plus, so the general public does not have to watch this fucking train wreck. That's all I'm saying. I'm done. Fuck both of them.
I agree. I'm glad we're in unanimous decision here. So moving on from that shit show, we'll just jump right into the non-ironic fight that I do actually want to talk about on the prelims here, and that is Matt Weeman versus Luis Violet Bob Ross Pena. This, now, I have to put an asterisk next to this. I am excited for this fight if Luis Pena is completely healed, because his shit was fucked up at the end of the last fight. He won, but he was fucking hurt. So if Luis Pena is completely healed, I am very excited about this fight, because Weeman is a very exciting young prospector, but Luis Pena, if he can start to get his fucking steam rolling without injuries, because he did have one during Ultimate Fighter and then during his last fight as well, so that's a bad trend to be setting. Hopefully everything is all right and he's back to good, because this young man has a very, very interesting fight style. He is tall, he's long, but he's quick as shit. He's a striker, and he has ground game and jiu-jitsu. So he's a very well-rounded total package fighter, and he's huge for his goddamn division. That being said, if he is completely healed, I think Luis Pena is going to come out and he's going to Bob Ross us a nice little canvas full of blood here. If he is not back to 100% good, and you should be able to tell fairly early on, then I think Weeman is gonna fuck him up, and he's gonna send him back to the fucking locker room on a fucking hurt box again.
I think you're about right on with that one. He's an exciting person to watch fight when he's healthy. I say when he's healthy because he's had a couple stints with it already, and that's not a good way to start an early career in the UFC. Generally, those that are injury prone don't make it very far. And it's not because they can't, it's because they can't. I mean, and not to mention the Bob Ross fucking moniker for him, that's just fucking golden. That goddamn hairstyle, just fucking nuts. But he should, if he's healthy, he'll have no problem hiding a little bird over in that bushes and telling everybody to keep their mouth shut about it.
I agree.
Yeah, hopefully he's more durable than he seems. But yeah, them 2 injuries suck. It sucks to see somebody so talented get prone to injuries like Dominic Cruz or something. It does suck to see that. So hopefully he goes along a little longer before another injury because he is fun to watch.
Hell yes. So with our prelims out of the way with that will jump us into the actual meat and potatoes of the meat and potatoes, the main card discussion that we will have here. So now, once again, lots of filler fights on this damn card. So I don't want to mention every single fight here, but there are a couple that I do feel are worth talking about. Again, a couple for irony's sake, a couple for legitimacy sake. We're going to start out with the irony's sake here. Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. I can't stop singing the praises about the De La Rosa family. Both Montana and her husband are both badasses. We have watched both of them in the UFC put on just beautiful displays of technical work and brilliant jiu-jitsu from both of them. Andrea Lee, however, does tout herself as a bit of a BJJ gal as well. We haven't really seen a whole lot of impressive work from her, but she has definitely put in some work during her time in the octagon so far. The question is going to be now, can she step up to the level that we have seen of De La Rosa while also keeping in the back of her mind that her retarded-ass redneck husband just got arrested by the feds a couple weeks ago, and now that's going to unfold, and she's going to have to be involved in that as well. So is her head going to be in the right place to be able to force herself to compete at an easily discernible higher level of jiu-jitsu that De La Rosa is going to bring? I don't fucking think so. I think the cowgirl is definitely out of her fucking element here, and I think De La Rosa is going to put that ass down. I think De La Rosa takes this with a sub in the early second.
I only see one thing that could change that, and that's if she uses that fuel as fire to go in there, and she's pissed off. She needs somebody to take it out on her, and De La Rosa just happens to be that girl. That's the only way I can see that going the other way around. To be honest, De La Rosa is on her way up. She's been doing a fantastic job of making a solid name for herself to separate herself from her husband when it comes to the fight game. She's definitely doing it. But I think that's all going to depend on Andrea Lee, on whether or not her head is in the right spot. Well, her head's not going to be in the right spot, period, from this. I guarantee. That's just how shit like that happens. It's going to depend. How does she use it, as fuel to the fire, or is she going to use it as a fucking fire blanket to put that shit out? If she goes that route, she's fucked. She uses it for fuel to the fire. I feel bad for De La Rosa because that could mean really bad things for her.
Yeah, you just got to see. I don't actually know either of these fighters. That's interesting that there's a husband and wife in the UFC, though, fighting. It's crazy.
Oh, no. He's not in the UFC. He's been in the headlines because he is an epic level piece of shit. He beat the fuck out of her and got arrested for it. She dropped the charges, and then he went on the run from the feds for like almost a year. And she apparently was allegedly in contact with him the whole time, but they couldn't catch him doing it.
De La Rosa.
No. Lee.
Yeah, so De La Rosa.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, her and her husband they're both up and coming prospects.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah, both young kids, young couple, both Brazilian jiu-jitsu badasses, and they both put on some good fucking fights. I would definitely encourage you to go watch both of their last two fights.
Yeah.
But from there, we will move along to the next non-ironic fight. That's the only ironic fight that I wanted to mention here. Legitimate here. The next one that I want to talk about is definitely going to be an interesting matchup here. This is Randy Brown versus Brian Barberina. I'm not going to say Randy Brown is a soup can, but he's not getting fed to Barberina because Barberina is the greatest right now. Barberina needs a win. He's a great fighter, but he's had a lot of bad luck lately, but he's a great fighter. So it seems to me like this is one of those situations where Randy Brown is still very green behind his fucking ears here and may not be stylistically the best matchup for Barberina, but Barberina needs a win, and he needs a big fucking win. And with the stylistic matchup that the two present here, Barberina could absolutely pull off a KO mid-second round here, and that's what I think, because Barberena needs this, and I think he wants it bad enough. I think that hunger, that fire is lit inside this fucking boy. I think his ass is in gear now. I'm calling second round Barberena.
I don't know that I can agree with that. I don't call those unlucky moments that he's had. This comes with your game plan. Look, I'm not saying he's a fucking soup can, but his last couple of fights make me think he's a goddamn soup can, because he's just not performing at the level that he should be. Thus the reason he's taking those L's. On the other side there, you gotta look, Randy Brown, I'll say, a relative unknown to most MMA fans, if not unknown. They're both coming off loss. So I think this one's going to end up going to decision. I'm not going to pick a winner on this because, to be honest, that's like me throwing a fucking Campbell's can and a Progressive can into each other and seeing which fucking soup lands upright. I don't give a shit. These guys honestly don't make or break this card. There's actually nothing on this card that makes or break this card, to be quite honest, but I really don't see it. I can't agree with you on this one at all. It's not bad. It's not a bad string of luck. It's a bad string of fucking fights. That's all there is to it. You're doing some things wrong. Hopefully you've changed your shit up to get yourself fixed.
He had a really good last fight with whatchamacallit. It was a really good fight with what's his name? I see him right here. Luque. That was a real good fight, right? Yeah. You're muted.
Oh, yeah, Vicente Luque and him had a great fucking matchup.
Yeah. I know Mike Perry was calling him out. I like Mike Perry a lot, but I don't think he would beat Barberena. I think that would be a good fight, though, for Barberena. That would boost him up.
Oh, that right there, I would vote for Barberena any day because I can't stand Aluminum Mike. Fuck that piece.
Likewise. Not to mention, Aluminum Mike is currently in the process of trying to actively call out Darren Till. You want to talk about a bad fucking move? I think Barberena would kick the shit out of fucking Mike, but I think Darren Till would rearrange his fucking head.
I think that's a great move for UFC to do that for Darren Till. I do.
Then you're feeding Darren Till a soup can.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay because Darren Till needs it. Doesn't he have 3 losses?
Yeah. At this point, he needs a soup can to be able to put on a good fucking show.
And Mike Perry has a name. Like, people like him. Like, he's got a big name, even though he doesn't win. He's not that good, but he's got a.
That's because he fucking runs his mouth.
That's right. Cocksucker gets him all his fans.
He's got an alligator mouth that overloads his canary ass. That's what happens every fucking time.
Mm-hmm. That's why I like him.
I think it would be an interesting matchup for sure.
Oh, I know you're from Philly.
Yeah, he reminds me of people I would hang with.
Oh shit. So from there, that will bring us on to a very, we'll call it an interesting co-main event. John Hands of Stone Lineker, versus Rob Font. What? This is another example of one of those where they could have taken this and put it on the prelims and no one would have noticed. I get that your main event isn't the biggest for the casual fans, but in a situation like that, generally what most of the time they do is bring in a couple of real big name fights that aren't necessarily top contenders to help spice it up a little bit. Rob Font and John fucking Lineker are not the names that are going to spice up any fucking card that needs a little pizzazz. Granted, John Lineker is always dangerous with that fucking haymaker fucking KO shot that he carries with him, but more often than not, he eats that same shot from his opponents than he lays it on him. Rob Font, to his credit, great fucking fighter, entertaining as shit, not a big fucking name. Font versus Lineker, not a big matchup. That's going to draw a lot of hype. That's going to put a little fire under a very meh, to be honest, card that we're talking about here. This is one of those cards where they should not have pulled all of the fights that they did and moved, because this is a little too fucking thin, in my opinion here. Lineker versus Font is not the main event that's going to carry a card, where real hardcore fans are generally in this situation only going to be tuning in for the main event on this card. That being said, I think we're going to get the Matt Lineker that we're used to, and I think Rob Font's going to come out with just a little more oomph behind him. I think Rob Font takes this one by decision. I think this one goes to the judges. I don't think Lineker is going to catch him, because I think Font's smarter than that, but I don't think that Font really has what it takes to put Lineker away either. So I think this goes to decision, and I think Font takes it on points.
I can see where you're coming from on that. There's definitely that fucking chance of fucking KO, though, with Lineker every fucking time, because he does throw a nasty bomb. But on this other side of this, I'm starting to look at Lineker lately as a gatekeeper, because they're feeding him people that are fucking he should be beating, and they're running through him. So he's acting more like a fucking gatekeeper. Don't get me wrong, he's still got potential. He's not that old yet to where he's completely on the downside of his career, but it seems more like there was a stint in Cerrone's fucking run where they were trying to treat him as a gatekeeper, but it wasn't working. Now, Lineker, they're doing the same thing, and it's working the way they want it to. They're giving Lineker fights. Lineker's wanting fights, but he keeps ending up on the short end of the stick. Rob Font, he's well-rounded. However, he's still on, like I said, this is basically a prospect highlight card is what it is, which is why this fucking thing is on ESPN+. Because if they put this on regular air, this would not draw any views. That's why they're making people pay fucking $20 a month or whatever the fuck it is for ESPN+, I forget. But it's definitely not one. If I didn't have it already, I wouldn't be going out and fucking ordering ESPN Plus for this fucking card, or a co-main event for that matter, like this. To be honest, this is just another fucking filler piece to cover their so-so main event. And I'll say so-so. Don't get me wrong. I love the fighters that are in it, but it's not main event material for them. Although, when we get to that, I'll talk about that. But for this, I think the gatekeeper is actually finally going to get a win out of this. And I think he's going to do it with a KO. I really think that's going to happen. Nothing against Rob Font, but I think the gatekeeper finally needs to get himself out of the fucking gate and back onto the stairs or something, because he's not looking hot as of late. So I think this might be that one where he needs somebody who's a little less experienced with somebody like him, and maybe this will be that time for him. I'm not saying that 100%, but I'm gonna lean towards Hands of Stone here. That stone hand, that's a bad fucking bitch to get hit by.
Mm-hmm. So you guys said pretty much everything needs to be said, but this is a rematch. Lineker won the first one. Yeah. That's all I gotta say, everybody. These guys said the best.
Yeah, not that that Lineker is not always dangerous. He's just not always really dangerous, because, like you said, that fucking Hand of Stone that he carries, if he touches you with it, he will put you down. The problem is he doesn't throw it consistent.
Yeah.
The opposite side of that, though, is that as great of a fighter as Font is, and I do really enjoy him, he's not known for his chin. And against the guy who carries as much fucking power as Lineker does, I can absolutely see if Font gets sloppy, there's definitely room for that fucking chin to get tested real quick.
Mm.
So, with that being said, that will bring us to the meat and potatoes of the meat and potatoes of these meat and potatoes, the main event of the evening.
Oh,
I love both of these fighters. Absolutely, unequivocally, I don't enjoy saying an unkind word about either one of these gentlemen. They're two of my absolute favorite little guys. But the pair of them against each other as a headline on an ESPN Plus fight night, as hard as it is to say, it's fitting. It really is. This is not a big card. This is not an impactful card. This is not something that everyone is going to tune in for. This entire card is primarily put together with filler fights and not big important fights for the hardcore fans, for the people who want to watch all the MMA like I generally do. Like some, real crazy hardcore MMA fans do. Because those of us know the Korean Zombie's a bad motherfucker. We know that despite his last performance, which was not his greatest, Moicano is still a legitimate bad motherfucker. You can't judge the Zombie by that fucking out of nowhere, ridiculous, unconventional fucking up elbow. You can't judge Moicano from his last, what seemed really like him overlooking his opponent during that fucking outing. But at the same time, in the world of MMA and in the world of the UFC in particular, more often than not, you're only as good as your last fight. And in that regard, you're taking a pair of dudes who are both coming off of serious losses and putting them together as the headliner main event on a card. That's hard to get anybody excited about, even fucking hardcore MMA fans. That being said, I think in this situation, Moicano got the fucking cobweb shaken out of his head. I think the Korean Zombie is a fucking problem for everybody everywhere at all fucking times because the dude doesn't stop. You have to fucking put him out or get the ref to jump in front of you to end a fight with that man. But I think if Hanato has his head on straight and he's coming in there with a game plan and he's coming in there focused, I think he can take some. I think he can take him just slightly. And I think it's going to come down to, again, a decision where it's going to come down to the points here. I don't think either one of these gentlemen are going to finish each other, but I think this is going to be a fairly eventful fight. I think it's going to be a good fight to watch, not necessarily the fireworks that everyone would hope from a main event, but I think it's going to be a good fight nonetheless. And I think Moicano is going to get it done by decision at the end.
I'm going to have to disagree here wholeheartedly on this one. Where I was going previously about the previous fight, this is definitely not main event material. However, for a prospect showcase, this is main event material because that's pretty much what this fucking entire card is. Neither one of these, Moicano nor Chan Sung Jung, are fucking prospects anymore. They're both seasoned fighters. They've been in there. They've been through fucking wars. In fact, the Korean Zombie here, his last fight, he was decisively winning that fight until the stupidest, dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life ever happened. In fact, the fact that even happened blows my mind. Is he generally walks through fucking everything. How some ridiculous backwards fucking, I just fucked your aunt in the ass with your cousin's dick shit happened.
At the, wait a second.
Yeah, at the very last.
Literally at 4:59 at the end of the goddamn fight. Yeah.
Look, I don't. That's going to be something that probably pisses him off. Do you want a pissed off Korean Zombie in front of you? Fuck no.
I don't want a happy Korean Zombie in front of me.
No. Bad motherfucker regardless. Well, I hate to say this, but I think Moicano's in over his head here. Purely because, you know what? Maybe it's just because I'm a big fan of the Korean Zombie. I always have been. Since fucking day one that I saw him fight his first fight in the UFC. And even prior fights to the UFC. He has that no-stop mentality where he just keeps going. And he will keep pressuring and impose his will. He does it in every fight he's in. Unless he is fucking put out cold, which does not happen often, That's what he does. The last one, I'll say, the biggest fucking fluke in the world. In fact, I have a better chance of getting my goddamn leg bit off by an alligator in Lake Michigan in the middle of fucking February than that shit will ever happen again. In fact, I probably should go stick my ass in the air and see if I'll get struck by lightning while it's clear skies. So I probably got a better chance of that too. Well, I'm at it. I'll go buy myself fucking Mega Millions and take fucking 1 through fucking 8 or however many fucking numbers it is they draw and use those as numbers, and I'll fucking be a Mega Millionaire and I'm fucking gone. That shit'll never happen again. That's a case of a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. That's how that works. But I think he's going to come back pissed off, and unfortunately, Moicano's going to end up as the whipping boy for that fucking stupidity that happened to him. I say he will get it done. He will finish him. I say mid to late third round, if not early fourth.
Yeah, I'd like to see Korean Zombie win. I'm not going to act like I know Moicano or whatever his name is that well. Yeah. But I do. I'm a big fan of Korean Zombie too. And he, I'd like to see him get bigger fights because I like to see him go on and get bigger fights. So I'm rooting for him. I've only heard people say what Meter's saying and that he's going to lose. But I hope that doesn't happen. I'm rooting for him. And usually I like to just see how the fight comes out. There's very few people where I really root for them and want them to win. They have to be like Paul Felder, be from Philly or something. For me to root for them, I'd rather just see what happens. I want Korean Zombie to win because I want to see him go on and fight other guys a little better. But he is getting towards the end there. So. But I'm going to call it. This might be best card of the year because that's just how it happens usually. You never know. That's usually how it happens. They'll stack a card and it'll be, Tyron Woodley versus Wonder Boy, and you think it's going to be great. And then you get these cards and they're just amazing. They turn out to be just amazing. Something crazy will happen. So hopefully that happens.
I'm not going to lie. I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Fucking glass half full kind of guy tonight. Over there.
I wouldn't be mad in the least bit if it out that every one of these fights turns out to be full-on fucking barn burners and we're all sitting with our fucking jaws in our laps all night. I wouldn't be mad at that in the least bit either.
We'll be 3 months from now. We'll be so we got Korean Zombie versus John Jones.
Right. Henry Cejudo versus the Korean Zombie. Oh no, but that will wrap up our UFC coverage for Greenville. But there are 2 other little pieces that I do want to take a quick little moment to talk about before we close out the evening tonight. The first of which I want to talk about. The other thing going on Saturday night is going to be Bellator 223 versus, Mousasi, Gegard fucking Mousasi in the best fucking condition he has been in to date, in my opinion, versus Rafael Lovato Jr., who is one of the scariest fucking dudes making a tear up the fucking ranks in Bellator right now. This is going to be 2 brilliant and high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu tacticianers with great striking and great ground game and grappling as well. These 2 gentlemen are very, very well matched. They're both on a fucking tear. Mousasi does not want to let that fucking belt go for anything, but Lovato Jr. is coming for that gold, I think, man. That's going to be a hell of a fucking matchup to watch. Again, Bellator's card this weekend has a lot of filler on it as well, so I don't think a lot of those fights are going to be great unless it turns out to be a Nick Devine kind of call, and it turns out those are all fucking barn burners. But I think the way that looks, that's going to be another one of those cards where, there's going to be a couple of interesting scenarios early on, but the real fucking meat and potatoes of that one is going to be that fucking title strap headline. But the other thing that I want to mention before we close out the evening here is the one, the only, the GOAT himself, Lord Artem Lobov versus Paulie Big Mouth, I'll spit on the president and pretend it was Artem Malignaggi, are going at it Saturday fucking night. It finally goes down. We get to see it happen. The bare knuckle fighting championship 6 goes down. Before we get to Malignaggi and Lobov, another interesting fight that is being slept on for some fucking reason. Chris Lieben is back in bare knuckle fighting again, taking on Dakota Cochran, and that is going to be a fucking bloodfest. Malignaggi versus Lobov is going to be a fucking fight for the ages because there's hatred beyond hatred there. But Chris fucking Lieben, in his giant silverback state that he is currently no neck existing in, is coming to put a fucking splattering across the canvas of Cochran's blood. And Cochran is no fucking slouch either. He's a large fella and he's got some fucking hands. So that's going to be a fucking Picasso painting of red that is going to be interesting to watch before you get to probably the most, I'll say most anticipated, because the other word might not work as well. The most anticipated MMA kind of combat sport event of 2019 so far. Malignaggi is coming out of the fucking woodworks, running his mouth in his best used car salesman suit. And Lobov is just ready for it. He keeps saying this guy's running his mouth, but he's never been in a real bare knuckle fight. He hasn't been in a legitimate matchup of any kind in way too long. And I think Malignaggi is way out of his motherfucking element here. Now, I know that Paulie's got hands, and I know that Paulie was a world boxing champion at one point. But this ain't that, and this ain't that sport. I think after watching Artem and Jason Knight go at it last time, I have zero doubt in my mind that Paulie Malignaggi is going home with a new arrangement of his facial area, and hopefully, just hopefully, a little bit of humble pie. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I'm hoping he takes a little of that humble pie home with him.
Oh, dude, I will gladly touch on this. First and foremost, I'm fucking glad Chris Lieben is looking the way he has been lately. Because you know what? I missed having that motherfucker in the UFC because he would go to war no matter what.
Absolutely.
He wasn't fighting until he was bleeding. He was kind of like fucking what's his goddamn name? I can't even fucking think of his name now. But he's one of those guys where unless he was kind of fucking hit and woke up, he never really fought. And he's in the perfect fucking sport for that now because he's not taking. It looks like they're taking a lot of damage. They're just surface damage is what
superficial. Yep.
But he gets those little ones that hit him, and that wakes his ass up. And man, he's tearing people apart in there. Dude, I'm willing to call him the vanilla gorilla right now when it comes to that because he's letting people. He's putting people on notice. I don't know why people are sleeping on him like that. Has anybody gone back and watched his old UFC fights when he was tearing through people and knocking motherfuckers out?
Yeah, dude.
And now he gets to do it without gloves and fucking scar your pretty little face up.
Yep.
Because guess what? You're going to be the next contestant on Your Little Pretty Face is Going to Hell on fucking Adult Swim if you get in there with him. Good luck.
Yeah, this is like boxing Kumite style almost.
Yeah. Fucking... I don't even know where to begin with the Artem Lobov fucking Malignaggi bullshit. Look, Malignaggi is still butthurt over the fact that he got knocked down by Conor McGregor during training. Look, you were there to be a punching dummy, to teach him to box. You did your job. You got knocked down. Sorry, dude. You got knocked out by somebody who has fucking one punch knockout power. Don't be fucking butthurt that everybody called you out about it. And of all the people, you're going to take it out on a fucking training partner, Lobov? And Lobov's no fucking slouch. And obviously, Malignaggi's been out of the game, out of the actual fight game, taking actual fights for how many years?
At least 5 or 6 now.
Yeah. You're about to walk into, let me quote the Big Lebowski here. You are walking into a world of pain. You don't even realize what you're fucking walking into. That pretty little boxing face you have, not going to be that way when it's done. You're going to have scars you didn't know you could get scars on. You're going to have scars on top of your scars. You're going to have to pay a plastic surgeon 3 times to fix those scars because they're going to be so goddamn bad by the end of this thing that, in fact, you know what? I'm going to say this. I don't think that motherfucker makes it out of the second round. I think he's going to be so goddamn rearranged that his corner is going to throw in the towel on him if he doesn't quit on himself. Because you know what? Hopefully he's got a good corner that will do that for him, because otherwise he's really fucked.
Well, and you heard Artem today. He did an interview this afternoon where Paulie in his finest fucking used car salesman suit was trying to talk shit again, but Anthony Rumble Johnson was stepping in between the two and wasn't nothing fucking happening. But Artem said when they separated him and did their solar interviews, he's here because he needs to make a name. I'm here because I know he can't. All I have to do is give him the reason to quit. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, and that's it. I think he will quit. I don't think he makes it out of the second because you know what? That's not like boxing. You can't just go poof, soft pillow, poof, soft pillow, poof, soft pillow for fucking
clinch.
12 rounds.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
off. This time.
No. Toe to line, motherfucker. Toe to line. Because guess what? You're already in punching distance at that point. You better be fucking ready the second that thing fucking shoots off.
Well, and that unto itself is the other thing that I really don't think Paulie is taking into consideration. A boxing ring is a fairly large ring. MMA, UFC, Bellator, Octagon is a fairly large thing. The bare knuckle fighting championship ring is smaller than all of them on purpose. They put you in the phone booth for a fucking reason. This isn't about who can use your range or who can stay out of punching distance. No. This is fucking bare knuckle. You're in there this fucking close and you better swing and you better fucking connect.
All I'm hoping is Molinagi has a pre-written apology letter for all of the cocksuckerness that he has gone and done. Because you know what? He's not going to be able to talk when he's done. In fact, if he's missing teeth, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Artem's going to fuck him up. I have no doubt about it.
I don't care how good your fucking hands were in boxing, and I say were because they're obviously not to that point anymore. You're not using boxing strategy in this. This is a whole different ball of wax. You can't jab your way to a finish in there. No, you're stuck face to face. You may as well reach out and kiss his sister because that's about how close you are. So, I just say, Malanaji, it was fun watching you be a dumb shit and talk shit about something you don't know about. I wish they would have let you step into an MMA ring with him so that way he could use a full arsenal against your ass, but this will do.
He's helping them out a lot, the bare knuckle boxing, because I think it's definitely putting them up on a pedestal. Apparently, a lot of people are talking about how Malinagi's hands are really bad. Like they're probably going to break early.
That's just like Connor was saying to Floyd.
Yeah.
Here's a boxing, man. Those multiple breaks, those multiple fractures, they heal, but they leave you fucking brittle, and there ain't no on your fists here to save you no more.
But let's say devil's advocate, Paulie beats Artem, bad. If he puts on a good show, do you think Connor comes out and fights Paulie?
That's a good question.
I don't think Paulie wants any of Connor. I don't think he'd sign that contract.
I think he would for the money. I absolutely do. I think he would. Would.
I guess you know what? You give me enough fucking money, I'll go in there and get my ass beat by Connor too. Fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this would be one of those situations where it's not even about the money, though. I think it's so obvious that getting dropped by Connor is stuck in Paulie's cross so fucking hard. He's willing to try and go through Artem to get back at him. So I think in this situation, if playing devil's advocate with you here, if some fucking how Paulie gets past Artem and fucks Artem up good, I think the first fucking thing he does when they put the microphone in front of him is say, Connor, where the fuck you at, you pussy? I beat your boy. Come find me.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of that is being a literal multi-millionaire, potentially billionaire at this point. Does Connor have any interest in getting into a bare knuckle ring and messing up that pretty face with Paulie? Because regardless, you're going to take some shots in bare knuckle. There's going to be some fucking superficial shit going on. And we all know Connor likes being pretty. Mm-hmm. Will Connor sign that thing? I think in this situation, I think he would. I think not getting that fucking Khabib fight any earlier than sometime next year, because Dana's already said it's Dustin and Khabib first. And if one of them gets hurt, it's hard to not see Tony stepping in. That's going on. Conor's not getting a replacement call to fix that fight if something happens in September. So he's got to wait at least until after September, and then whatever healing period is needed after that. Conor doesn't have a UFC fight lined up realistically until probably sometime early 2020, maybe summer of 2020. I think if Paulie manages to do the work and fuck Artem up and call Conor out, Conor says, sign the fucking paper. Let's do it in August.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be awesome. I actually did think in the beginning that Paulie was going to run away with this until I seen other people's opinions, and then I was hearing about Paulie's fists, and then when you really do think about it, I mean, Artem's been in there already. It's such an early sport, and when you see what happens, like, you know, me and Mita were talking about this. It's so different, like especially when you get into the second, third round, the punches get more sloppy, like their fists are hurting, so they're kind of hitting with like their side of their hand a little bit, and you know, it's different. It's very different than having gloves on. Very different.
Yep. And the other catch with that, where I think everybody thought Malignaggi would do great at first, they forget you don't have to close your fists to protect your hands when you're in a boxing glove.
Yep.
You
can punch open-handed like that.
Yeah, because the glove is closing it for you. And you've got all that fucking padding to protect your hands. This, you don't. You have to physically hold your fist shut, make sure you're holding them correctly so you don't break a fucking knuckle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a learning curve there with that, where Artem already knows that learning curve.
Well, and even more than that, Paulie's specialty is in boxing with gloves on, where you lean straight in, because you've got all that padding and you're hitting with the brunt of the glove and your wrist as a whole, using it like a weapon. You can't fucking throw a punch like that in bare knuckle. This is like real world fighting. And anybody who's ever been in a real world fight knows if you throw your hand straight like that, you're breaking those knuckles and probably a couple in your fucking wrist. You'll break your fucking hand real easy throwing boxing style punches against a dude's bare skeleton with your fucking knuckles. You have to punch completely different than you would if you had 20-ounce padded fluffy gloves and a bunch of shit taped to your knuckles here. It's a different world that Paulie's not used to. Artem is.
How funny would it be if 5 years from now, Artem Lobov is the GOAT of bare knuckle boxing? Like, he just starts picking up all these names. Knight, you know, it would be so fun
for it, man. He's a bad motherfucker to begin with, and clearly he didn't have the greatest fucking runs in, you know, mixed martial arts and UFC, but the fights that motherfucker wins, he wins handily. And when he gets beat, it's because he's getting beat. Artem's never been a soup can, but he's never been like a Conor McGregor level name.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, you bring him in the fucking bare knuckle boxing world, and this dude is legitimately putting on fucking shows. He's putting in work. He's showing talent. He's got a fucking grit you can't question. He could realistically become the face of bare knuckle boxing, man.
That'd be awesome. If that joke just turns out to be that he is the GOAT of something.
Yeah, man. It's as funny as it is, it's a real possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it'll be interesting, that's for sure.
So everybody predicts that Lobov will be 3-52 by the end of Saturday.
That's right. That's right. With a double champ belt on his shoulder like Dylan Dennis. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap up our event for this evening, talking about all of the fun that will be here on Saturday night. So with that being said, I would like to take just a quick moment to run it around the room and thank the gentlemen who were kind enough to take time out of their lives to come here with me. First and foremost, if somebody wants to know what the best place in Fishtown to get a sandwich is, Nick Devine, how are they going to be able to get a hold of you?
They could just go over to n.devine on Instagram or YouTube and ask me. I know more tacos. Ask me about tacos. I know a little bit of vaping. A little bit of coils, mostly tacos, not too many sandwiches. But you could go over there, n.divine83. Check me out. Thank you for having me. Can't wait until next week. And yeah, I'll see everybody next time. Definitely.
Thank you again for coming, brother. You're absolutely always welcome anytime here. And now, if by some chance somebody thinks that Green Bay just doesn't have a defensive plan this year and they need to be schooled, how would someone of such ignorance get a hold of you to get a verbal ass beating, TJ?
Somebody who has that kind of ignorance can go fuck themselves to start with. However, they do want to get a verbal beatdown. Feel free to find me on Wednesday nights, 9:30 Central Time, here on the YouTubes. Or if you're feeling giddy, you can find me on Instagram. I may message you back. I may not, because I don't do social media very often. The other one, email me. I do check my email, so you'll get a response there. All the same, golf D-vapes. But by all means, please come talk shit so I can correct you in being a dumb fuck.
So, that being said, thank both of you gentlemen for the time that you have given today. I appreciate that. I always appreciate the opinions that both you gentlemen bring and that all my guests bring here, because they always have something that I didn't think of myself to input and bring to this wonderful crowd. That is all we are going to call for this evening, though. So thank you everyone that tuned in. And remember, if at any point during this broadcast we made you giggle, we made you think about something, we gave you a perspective that you didn't already have, give us a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe if we really tickled your fancy. Share an episode or two. Tell your friends about it. We're trying to grow this damn thing. On the other side of that coin, though, if we seemed like just a couple of dumbasses talking to a fucking camera from our goddamn living rooms and we were wasting your fucking time, give us a thumbs down. We deserved it, and I won't dispute it. But with that being said, we are going to close this out for tonight. Remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, even an albatross if it strikes your fancy.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip and a kicking from the hip, everybody was